For today's lesson, we will be discussing about the rules of equivalences. So what we will do is we will try to create equivalent statements using the different rules of equivalences. So let's define first what is an equivalent statement, or how or when can we say that statements are equivalent. Two statement forms are called logical equivalent if and only if they have identical truth values for each possible substitution for their statement variables. So when can we say that the statements are equivalent? We can say that the statements are equivalent if they have identical truth values. So let's say you have two sets of arguments or statements and you create the truth table for each of them. You have to look at the last column and check if they have identical truth values. If it happens that these two statements have identical truth values for all of the possible combinations of the truth values, then we can say that these statements are logically equivalent. Example, we have if P then Q and not Q then not P. So we have here two sets of truth table. So you just have to look at the last column. So we have here true, false, true, true for if P then Q. And for if not Q then not P, we also have true, false, true, true. Now you notice we have here two same or identical truth values for all the possible combinations for our P and Q. So therefore we can say that if P then Q is equivalent with if not Q then not P, because again they just have identical truth values from the truth table. So not all the time we will be using the truth table because it's a bit tasky to do, and there are also possibilities that you will get a wrong value in the middle of doing the truth table. So that's why we have what we call as the rules of equivalences. So these rules will tell us that these two statements are logically equivalent. So let's discuss the different rules one by one. So first is commutative. So by the way, this symbol here signifies that our statements are equivalent. That means they just have the same thought, or they are just pertaining the same idea. So for commutative, if we have P or Q, it is just equivalent as with Q or P. Or if we have P and Q, it is also equivalent with Q and P. In short, you just have to interchange the two propositions and they are still equivalent. Example, you will play badminton or you will go to the park. So the first proposition here is you will play badminton, so that is P. You will go to the park, so that is Q. So if you write this into its propositional form, it's P or Q. And if we will write its equivalent statement using the commutative rule of equivalence, then you will go to the park or you will play badminton. So what we did here is we just interchange the Q. So this one now is our Q and this one now is our P. So it becomes now Q or P. Same as with conjunction. So all you have to do is just to interchange the two propositions, and we can say that they are equivalent. Next is we have associative. When we're talking about associative, that means we are concerning about the groupings. So in this case, for propositions, we can also apply associative rule and we will still have equivalent statements. So we have here P or Q or R is just equivalent with P or Q or R. So what happened here is that the grouping symbol and the first one is at P or Q, and then you just have to move it to Q or P, and still the two are equivalent. Same as if we're using and. So P and Q and R is just equivalent with P and Q and R. Example, Jack will either take dance or voice lessons or he will enroll in art class. So the P here is that Jack will take dance lessons. So that is our P. Jack will take dance lessons. And then our Q is Jack will take voice lessons. And R here is Jack will enroll in art class. So if we will write this into its propositional form, Jack will either take dance or voice lessons, or he will enroll in art class. So it's in the form of P or Q or R. Now if we will be writing its equivalent statement using associative, it will become Jack will take dance lessons, or he will either take voice lessons or enroll in art class. So in symbols, Jack will take dance lessons, or he will either take voice lessons or enroll in art class. So they just have the same thought here. Next is we have distributive. So for us to apply the distributive rule, what we will do is just to distribute P with Q. So it will become P or Q and P or R. So we have here P or Q and P or R. Same as if we change and or here. So we have P and Q or P and R. So example, either I'll pay for the drinks or else John and Harold will pay for the meal. So we have here P, I pay for the meal, or I'll pay for the drinks, for the drinks. So that is the first statement. I'll pay for the drinks. And then we have the Q, John will pay for the meal. And then we have R, Harold will pay for the meal. So if we will write this into its propositional form, either I'll pay for the drinks or else John and Harold will pay for the meal. So if we will write the equivalent statement of this using distributive, so we have either I'll pay for the drinks or John will pay for the meal, and either I'll pay for the drinks or Harold will pay for the meal. So we have here, you just have to follow this one. So it's either I'll pay for the drinks or John will pay for the meal, and either I'll pay for the drinks and or Harold will pay for the meal. So there. So they are just again equivalent with one another. Now for double negation, so it's the same as when there are two negative signs when we're dealing with integers or numbers. So if you negate a negation, so that is double negation, so you just have to go back with the original statement, which is P. So for example, it is not true that you should not apply sunblock every day. So as you can see in this statement, we have two negation. So it is not true that you should not apply sunblock every day. So therefore, if we will apply the rule for the double negation, it is just the same as you should apply sunblock every day. Next is for the contrapositive. So for the contrapositive, let's say we have if P then Q, and it is just equivalent with not Q, then not P. So what we did here is just to interchange our antecedent and consequent, and we negate them. So for example, if I'm feeling calm, then I do yoga. So this I'm feeling calm is our P, and I do yoga is our Q. So to write the contrapositive, or to write its equivalent statement using contrapositive, we have to interchange our antecedent with consequent, and we have to negate them both. So that will be, if I'm not doing yoga, then I'm not feeling calm. So this one, I'm not doing yoga, this is not Q. And then I'm not feeling calm, this is not P. So we have here now not Q, then not P. So these two are just equivalent with one another. Next is we have De Morgan's law. So for De Morgan's law, the negation of a conjunction and disjunction, it's just the same as if we are going to distribute the negation to each of our proposition. So for example, I have here negation of P or Q. So it is just equivalent if I will distribute the negation to P and Q and change the operation from or to end. Same as with the other one, I have negation of the conjunction P and Q. So you just have to distribute this to not P. So it will become not P and then not Q and then the conjunction, and we will just change it to or. Example, it is not true that I either like dark chocolate or mint chocolate. So in this case, the P is I like dark chocolate. I like dark chocolate. And our Q is I like mint chocolate. Okay. There. So if I will write this into its propositional form, so it is not true that I either like dark chocolate or mint chocolate. So we have here negation of the whole disjunction. So to write this into its equivalent form using De Morgan's law, so it will be like this. I do not like dark chocolate and I do not like mint chocolate. So we distribute the negation. So I do not like dark chocolate and I do not like mint chocolate. So again, we apply here the De Morgan's law. Next is for material implication. We have if P then Q is just equivalent with not P or Q. So what happens here is that we negate the antecedent. You negate the antecedent and the implication, we change it to disjunction. And then for Q, we just have to copy it. So for example, if I am hungry, then I eat. So the P here is I am hungry and then the Q is I eat. So this one is Q. Now to write the equivalent statement of this using material implication, so we negate the P. So we negate P and then we copy Q and then from the implication we change it to or. So it should be not P or Q. In statement, I am not hungry or I eat. So this is not P, I am not hungry, and then we have or, I eat. So they are just equivalent with one another. Next is we have material equivalence. So for material equivalence, this is just the same as how we defined biconditional before. So here we have biconditional statement. P if and only if Q is just equivalent with if P then Q and if Q then P. So like what we know, biconditional statement is actually a conjunction of two implications or two conditional statements. So again, this is just the same as that. So example, I have my umbrella if and only if it is raining. So the P here is I have my umbrella, it is raining is our Q. So this statement is in biconditional form, P if and only if Q. Now, if we will write the equivalent statement of this using material equivalence, so all we have to do is to write two implications and then connect them using the conjunction end. So it will be like this. If I have my umbrella, so that's P, then it is raining. If P, then Q. And, so we have to write and, if it is raining, so that is Q, then I have my umbrella, then P. Okay? So if P, then Q, and if Q, then P. So this is again similar with the biconditional statement. I have my umbrella if and only if it is raining. And for the last one, we have exportation. So in exportation, we have here conjunction for our antecedent. So P and Q. So if P then Q, then R. And then all we have to do is to change the conjunction to implication. And then the grouping symbol will now go with the second and the third proposition. So if P, then Q, then R. Example, if I will cook spaghetti and go to the market, then I should buy pasta. So I will cook spaghetti, that is P. I will go to the market, that is our Q. I should buy pasta, this is our R. So if we will write this into its propositional form, if I will cook spaghetti and go to the market, then I should buy pasta. Now, if we will write now the equivalent statement of this using exportation. So that will be, if I will cook spaghetti, then I will go to the market, then I should buy pasta. So if I will cook spaghetti, then I will go to the market, then I should buy pasta. So they just have the same thought, these two right here. Okay, so those are the different rules of equivalences. Now, let's try to create more statements. Let's try to create equivalent statements using the different rules of equivalences. Okay, first one, I love reading books and watching movies. So here, let's use commutative. So in commutative, as what we know, all we have to do is just to interchange the two propositions. So what are the two propositions here? First is I love reading books, that is P. And then the second one is I love watching movies, so that is Q. Since we have to use the commutative, so all we have to do is to interchange. So it should be Q and P, or if we will write it in words, I love watching movies and reading books. So they are just the same. So I love reading books and watching movies is just equivalent with I love watching movies and reading books. Okay, next statement. It is not true that it is raining today and I will go to the market. So this one, we will be applying De Morgan's law. So like what we did in the first one, all you have to do is to identify first the propositions involved in this given statement. So it is raining today. This is our P. I will go to the market. This is our Q. Now, if you will write this into its propositional form, it is not true that it is raining today and I will go to the market. So, not of P and Q. Now, since we're using De Morgan's law, what we know is we just have to distribute the negation and then change the operation from N to OR. So, we should have not P or not Q. Okay? So, that will be now, it is not raining today or I will not go to the market. So, you just have to negate this. So, it will be it is not raining today. Then we change OR. And then the negation of Q, I will go to the market. So we have I will not go to the market. Okay, so this is now the equivalent statement of our original one. For our next example, if I will not spend my allowance, then I can go to concerts. So we will be writing this using material implication. So like what we did a while ago, we have to identify first what is our P, what is our Q. So I will not spend my allowance. That is our first statement. But since we have the word not, that means we have to get the negation of it. So it is not P. So this whole statement, I will not spend my allowance, that is not P. And then we have here, I can go to concerts. So this is our Q. If we will write this into its propositional form, if I will not spend my allowance, then I can go to concerts. So we have not P, then Q. Now, since we have to write it using the material implication, that means we have to negate our antecedent, change the operation from implication to OR, and retain our consequent. So what we will do is, since we have to negate our antecedent, and since this one is already in negation, so what we will be having here is a double negation actually. So not of, not P, which is equal to P, or the original statement itself. And then we have to change the implication to OR. So we have P OR and then copy our consequent Q. So this will now be the equivalent statement using material implication. So we have P, so that will now be I will spend my allowance or I can go to concerts. So these two now are equivalent. Again, we use material implication for this. So this is our P and then this one is the Q. And then last, for our last example, you pass the exam if and only if you scored 50% or higher. So our P here is this one, you pass the exam. That's the first proposition. Next is we have you scored 50% or higher. That is our second proposition. And since we have if and only if here as the connective, so that means this is biconditional. So you pass the exam if and only if you scored 50% or higher. And since we have to write the equivalent statement of this using material equivalence, that means we have to write two implications and connect them using conjunction and. So we should have if P then Q and if Q then P. So this is what we should have later on. So to write the statement, if you pass the exam, then you scored 50%. So this one, if you pass the exam, so that is P, then you scored 50% or higher. That is our Q. So if P then Q. And, so we have and here, if you scored 50% or higher, so that now is our Q, then you pass the exam. If Q, then P. So again, if you pass the exam, then you scored 50% or higher. And if you scored 50% or higher, then you pass the exam. So this is now our equivalent statement using material equivalence. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something about the rules of equivalences and when can we say that the statements are equivalent using the table of values, as well as how to apply the different rules in creating equivalent statements, and see you next time.